Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Covenant Union. It's a podcast about marriage, the joys of parenting, and Christian living. Yeah, my name is Raymond.
And I'm Ali.
Just wanted to talk about what it has been like for us having kids, what the marriage became, what the relationship became after kids came into the picture. And it's quite the roller coaster. Many things change, and before the kids come, you have this idea or ideology of how it's going to be so smooth and shock on us. And we came to find out a few things over time, and we had it easy compared to most of the stories we hear.
Yes, I believe we actually did.
Yes.
We've had it really. The shift hasn't been that big.
What was your highlight when Jethro came into the picture, and then what did you see disappear?
I think, of course, the highlight would be the joy. There's this inexplicable feeling with the child, especially the first. It's the excitement. It's like, it's new territory. You're just learning. You're falling in love with this little human. But then, of course, it shifts things between the parents. Yeah. And for us, I think our dynamic shifted. One, I was constantly angry. While as in this also state of joy, I was so mad. One, Jethro didn't make it any easier on us. For the first 4 months, he was a crier.
Yeah.
And it's even hard to explain. Jethro would sleep throughout the day. And as soon as it got dark, it's like there were ants biting him. And he's a little kid. He can't tell you what the problem is. He won't. So we were up from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. I kid you not. He was awake, crying that entire time. So there's that, of course, lack of sleep. And then there's this frustration of feeling like maybe you could do better. You could help me more. But I also know that you are doing the best you could. But I think you want someone to be angry at, and your partner is the one that's right there. So there's that tension also. And then there was navigating having to be a mom and still be your girlfriend at the time. And there are certain expectations I felt you had of me that I felt like, my God, I'm not going to give you a meal every night. Every chance I get, I am trying to sleep and stay sane. So there were, and of course we're not spending time. We're actually spending every waking hour together, but we're not spending quality time together. And that's something that we learned much later on in the journey, that we had to cautiously make the time to actually reconnect and for a few minutes stop being parents and get back to just the two of us.
Yeah,
I think for me those were the major changes that happened.
I was scared at the same time excited. And I remember on day 2 is when I made the conscious decision that I am not going to leave this boy's side, neither am I going to leave the mom's side. And I think day 2 is when I spent the night in hospital with you as the caretaker. It was quite interesting. And he cried.
That's when the first night we slept.
Yeah.
And it's the second night when the crying started.
Yeah. Maybe it was me.
I highly doubt it.
No, because actually when you said Jethro was a crier, yes, he was. The problem was heat.
Yes, we figured it out much later. The little thing could not stand heat.
And it was a hot season. He was born in April.
Yes, and the house we're living in at that time.
It was
small and
the sun would set on our bedroom wall.
Yes.
And it was 1 bedroom. So. And all the heat would be in that room. So you'd walk out with him and he keeps quiet.
As soon as you get back into the house.
So I'm glad I know all this because I was there through it all. And yeah, you're thinking, what more can I do? But there's literally, apart from being there as a man, there's hardly anything you can do. And the shift was special because we were these lovey-dovey, always together. The I love yous, the kisses, everything was just not over the top, but it was beautiful. Check in Jethro, the other side, and nothing.
Like most women, I think we dive into that mode where you realize this human being depends on me for every little thing.
Yeah.
And so your attention shifts and you get caught in that zone for so long. And for most people, at least most of my friends and family, as you're coming out of it, as this baby becomes a toddler, then the second one checks in, then the third one. So for a number of years, you're in that zone, you're in that mommy zone, and it takes effort and self-awareness on your part to say, wait a minute, there's this man that needs my attention too. I need to reconnect with him again as his wife, beyond just being the mother of his children, and not just having conversation. Because for the first couple of years, our conversations were about Jethro, until we realized, man, we're going to grow apart if we don't make the effort.
You won't know what's on each other's minds apart from the child, or which there were many other things on our minds, but we never voiced them.
First of all, you're changing. As the years go by, you're individually changing. So you have to go on those journeys together to stay connected.
Exactly.
So if your only connection point is the children, what happens when the children leave? And unfortunately, I don't even think it waits until the children leave. The cracks keep getting bigger and bigger until you end up in a really dark place simply because you just didn't take the time to connect.
Yeah. And one of the most exciting things I did was choose to stay plugged in. I didn't stop. I jumped in and came to all those diaper changing, every little thing.
I must say, in that area, I think I'm one of the luckiest people, almost blessed, because you've always been a hands-on dad. You've always been, when it comes to your children, nothing is off limits, whether it's showering them, feeding them. Like on those nights when I just could not, you'll still get up and feed them and change diapers. And even as they are growing older, you're still very involved in those very little details. Yeah, and I'm really thankful for that. It's one of my biggest blessings.
It's a joy doing it. And through all the time when it was just Jethro, because I think it was mainly Jethro where we grew up at. But I didn't stop being close, not only to Jethro. I think once in a while I would still try and vibe you. I would send those.
I haven't had the word vibe in so long, but okay.
And I just kept going. And now when I look back, I realized that I think it was the Holy Spirit guiding me, because there is a love you derive from taking care of your child, even as a guy. So when your wife has her focus on the baby, if you choose to get angry, you will forever be angry. So there are moments I would get really angry. I'm like, can she see I'm here? And then there were moments when I realized, you know what? I am here, let me be here physically, let me be in her face, let me take care of the baby, let me take care of her, let me try and do the best I can in that situation. And it helped us when it came to reconnecting, because our stories were the same. Throughout the children being born, our stories have always been the same, because
we experience
everything together. So it's easy to now say, let's connect on other things, because you have a history of doing things together. And I think that's one thing I thank God for, that whatever spirit He put in me to be a hands-on dad, it really helped. And Ali is not very verbal, but you'd see it in her eyes when you do things. So I just said, okay, I'll figure out how to look into her eyes and get that emotion out, and I just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. It can get frustrating when you're not receiving that affirmation or praise or cheerleading, but that frustration that you get, you channel it back into doing the right thing. And many years later, you see what happens.
And I think, it's funny how all these things are interconnected. It's not that I didn't appreciate you. If anything, I think I did. But my way of showing I appreciated you was different from what you'd have wanted. Yeah. So it's, everything in marriage, I guess, is interlinked.
Yeah.
There's something you mentioned, and, the more you got involved, the less overwhelmed I was.
Yeah.
And I realize now that that's what created a foundation for us to reconnect. I was less overwhelmed, I was less tired, I was less cranky. So there was actually time for us to sit and make the connection.
Yeah.
You took a few things off my plate, and that left me open to be present for you as well.
Yeah. And not to forget, there was a financial burden.
Yes, I think when you have a child, especially, we knew we wanted to have children. We were not exact on when, but when we found out we're expecting, we're ecstatic. But we're in a place where the jobs we had at that time, honestly, were not sufficient enough to cater for a full family. So we had to figure out, how do we make this work? And the one thing Jethro did for us was give us drive.
Oh, yes. It's when the vision book came out.
Yes, it's when we actually had the first conversation of, yes, we knew the things we wanted to achieve, but we're not very detailed.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's this other person who you must think about. And you don't want him to have a mediocre life. You don't want average for your child.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we started thinking about business. We started thinking about, how do we grow our income? How it's something we are still working on.
Totally.
But then the thought was born then.
No, I remember we were still the going out kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when he was born. Yeah.
It was still
for a
there
little while.
But I remember after he was born, at the time, I think you were at your mom's place. I have to tell this story because it's what changed my life. You were at your mom's place, and I go to see Jethro. I used to come every day. And when I was there, I remember receiving some money, and quite a bit of it went out because I was like, now she's taken care of, there's nothing there at home. So at home I wasn't eating, I was eating at the bar. And
this is the first time I'm hearing this story.
No.
Really?
And then you called me. I think you went through my phone and saw the money. You called me, sat me down and said, look, we have a baby. I said, yeah. I said, and there's certain things that might have to change. And now I need to know whether you're with me on this. Basically, I'm paraphrasing because it was years back. But I need to know if you're with me in this, like what is our priority? I need to know your priority. And I didn't give you an answer. And that day I was supposed to go out to drink. I got up from that conversation. I remember, actually that was the first kiss I had with you ever since you was born. And they said bye. I walked out, went, was I driving? No, I was on the border. I walked out to look for a border. I went, told the border I'm heading to Tinder, to the bar. When he got onto the main road, I said, no, take me home. So now this part you've had for the first time. So I went home, sat in that couch. I remember we used to have a projector as a TV. I turned on that TV, I didn't really watch it. I just kept thinking of that thing. And yeah, that was actually, I think that was a big point, a big turning point for me. And that's when now the vision started to come in, the dreams started to come in, and I'm very grateful for that conversation. Like, I'm grateful that you mentioned it, because if you had kept it and thought about it, I don't think we would have been where we are right now. So yeah, it made me throw off a lot of things and focus on you two even more.
It's important to have the difficult conversations, because I'm sure it was uncomfortable for me to feel like I have to remind you that being a father comes first now. We can't keep on going like we were when it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
I think it must have been uncomfortable for me, but it was necessary.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't had that conversation, we wouldn't be here. Yeah, so after children, but after number 2, I think we had it in lock. It's just that you still go through the same process.
But you're more aware.
A new baby has come in, you're going through the same process. And Jasmine was a lockdown baby. So so she grew up with 9 people in the house during lockdown. Yeah, a lot of kids in the house. It was a blast for them. They had no idea how difficult it could be, but they enjoyed each other. I think that's why Jazzy got to talk very early.
Yeah.
And during that time, I remember there were so many hands to help
with the baby. Yes.
But I still tried to find a way.
One of the things Mommy says with so much pride every time she's talking about you to someone, she keeps saying how she's never met a man who is so hands-on with his children. And it warms my heart so much, because I know exactly what she means. Like, for her, I think initially it was cringy of like, Ali, you need to step up. You can't be letting the man do. Until she realized he actually loves to do this. Like, it's who he is. Yeah.
When my nephew was born, they used to bring him to my room every morning. So I think that's the background of it. But when you have your own kid,
it's different.
It's very different.
You know, the thing that now in this moment that I'm very cautious about with the children and our marriage is the realization that our marriage is the blueprint that we'll have of marriage. And so I'm very specific with the things I do, with how we handle conflict, how we talk to each other, because I know that our marriage will affect their marriages. And I don't want them to be in a place where they're thinking they don't have a great blueprint, and of course there are things they want to unlearn, and times change. The things we think we are trying to do now,
what were they thinking?
They'll look back and be like, yo, what were these people up to? But we are doing the best that we can.
Yes. And I think if you can get the basics in, then they'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, they'll figure out the rest.
Yeah. And I like that on that we're on the same page.
Absolutely.
I love that, because first of all, I don't think our kids know the difference between mommy does this and daddy does this.
No, there are no gender roles in our home, and that's one of the most amazing things.
Yeah.
Like we're in right now, I thought about this morning, how I'm very grateful for you. We're in a season where we have no house help. And that means with the kids back in school, it means getting up and somehow dividing the roles so it's a smooth morning. By the time I come back from doing their breakfast and packing their break, I come back to showered kids, dressed kids, get onto the table and let's get out of this house. And I can imagine how much more tiring it would feel if I still had to wake up perhaps an hour earlier than I already do to now cater for all that and then come get them showered, dress them up. Like, it's amazing what happens when two people choose to work together.
As a team. And the joy you get out of getting your kids ready is priceless.
First of all, your day begins on a high.
Oh yeah.
Because seeing them that excited for the day, and then it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Those are the changes that happened with us between, if we're to compare pre-kids and post-kids.
Yes. Firstborn taught us how to go through the second.
Absolutely. Made it much smoother. We knew what to expect. We knew how to maneuver. We also knew how to take cues. We'd notice things faster.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, babe, we are disconnecting on this. What do we do?
Yes.
How do we? Yeah.
Yeah. And the beautiful part now, when they're grown and you can actually tell, it's nice for you to walk into a room and say, you know what, honey, I feel like we're growing apart.
Yes.
You're like, okay, let's
yes, and you get to the root of the issue.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. And when the kids see things like that happening, they,
you know that at the very least you've given them a good foundation for their futures, for their own marriages.
As a wife, what would you advise an expecting mother or a young lady who is planning to have children? What would you advise her to do in her marriage when the baby is born?
When the baby is born, is take your husband on that journey with you. Communicate. Because most times your fatigue, all these emotions and hormone changes that you're going through can be misread on his part.
Yeah.
So take him on that journey with you. Explain how you're feeling, why you're feeling the way you're feeling. If you don't know why you're feeling that way, that is perfectly fine. Tell him, I don't even understand why I feel this way, but that's just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, for the husbands, be open to walking this journey with your wives.
Yes.
Allow these men to take care of their children. They're their children too. If you want to shower the child, you want to drown the baby, let him try. Teach him, show him. Let it be a joint effort. It was a joint effort to make this baby.
Yeah.
Let it be a joint effort to take care of this baby as well.
And to add on to that, for the men, I encourage you to try. Try. And when you start, it becomes a habit after some time.
You enjoy it. You love it.
Yeah. And patience and grace is all we can have when it comes to our wives. There's nothing you can do at that point to change it all back to where it was. But you can actually have patience and grace to move forward. And you come out of the dark tunnel. And I know some of you are going about there's the sex issue. Yes, it goes. But your patience, because instead of looking for joy outside, because some people now, there's no physical touch at home, let me go to the bar, not intentionally to get a girl, but one thing leads to another. And one thing I realized is I derived my pleasure from taking care of my kids. I derived my pleasure from being a father at home, or being a man at home. And it took me away from the crowd, the usual of go out. And so get involved. Even though she doesn't notice it, continue. Trust me, she is noticing it all the time.
And if she doesn't, remember that it's about the children too. So do it for the kids as well.
Yeah.
Then the other thing I want to say is, for the men, it would be nice to also self-educate on what the changes a woman's body goes through during this time. So when you're extending patience, please understand that 9 months of dealing with all these things will not be undone in 1 month or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So allow her to get back to that. First of all, your body image. For most of us, it changes how you view yourself, how you look at your body, and then just getting back into the groove of things might take a little bit. Just extend grace and support them. Support us.
Men, please make sure you compliment your wife. Just compliment her. Because she's still the beautiful person that you married. She's still the beautiful person before. It's just that there are changes that come. And for ladies, I'm blessed to have such an amazing wife. When we're going to have the baby, she did a lot of research, and she would take me through the research, pushing and the body changes. So I got to know a lot. I didn't do self-research, but the research you were doing, you shared it with me. As ladies, invite your husband into your conversation, into your research, and it will create
that world,
into the world of pregnancy.
And that's pretty much it for today.
Yeah, that's it for today. It was lovely talking to you
as
again.
always.
Please remember to like, to subscribe, to share, and we'll be back with a new topic next week.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, so this is Covenant Union again with Ray
and Ali.
God bless you.
See you.